Hi and welcome to this DCP Web Blender 2.8 Ocean and 3D Text Beginner's Tutorial. So in today's tutorial we'll be using Blender to create something similar to this. So we've got this ocean created in Blender. It's baked at a high resolution so you can see it looks quite realistic. And then you've got this ocean text or this ocean breeze. We'll play it for a little bit slower. So we've got the camera blur at the beginning, and then we've got this ocean with these light effects across the water. So there's some golden light at the back. I want it to simulate like the sun hitting the water at the back. And then you've got this text here that floats up from the water and then kind of slides towards the camera. And we want to create something like this, but we want to aim to make something a bit better, right? And we've got the sky in the background. So let's try make something like this. Let's aim to do something a little bit better. So we open up Blender. So we've got Blender open here. We'll go to General, and we've got our basic scene. Let's go to File, Save As. I'm already in the folder on my desktop, so I'm going to call this Ocean-01. Let's call your file Ocean-01 because we're going to save different versions of this file. We'll click Save. Then we're just going to rotate our camera, or the viewport we're going to rotate around. So the X is on this direction, the Y is on this direction. And then we're going to go to the modifier, add a modifier, and we're going to add a ocean modifier here. So here's the ocean modifier. We're going to zoom out so we can see it a bit clearer. And we want to modify this, right? So we want to go to the X and we're going to repeat it 4 times. Let's zoom out a little bit more. So we want some width on here. And then on the Y axis, we're going to repeat it 4 times as well. We may change this slightly, but for now, this is what we're going to use. And then we want to set the let's have a look here. So we'll leave pretty much all these settings up here as they are, but the resolution, we're going to increase this later when we come to do the final render. The choppiness, I'm going to set this to around 1.5. You can experiment with the choppiness, but around 1.5 seems to be good for me. But 1.5, not 15, 1.5. And then the scale, I'm going to set this to around 2.7. So if we zoom in, you can kind of see these peaks and they're repeating. But when you look at it from this sort of angle, you won't really see that repetition so much, right? Especially when we bake at a higher resolution, it'll look much better. So this is quite low res at the moment, but it's worth doing this in low res while you're working on the scene. And then later when it comes to rendering it out, we can bake it out in a high resolution. So we want to generate some foam. This is like foam on top of the water, and the foam label here, we need to give it a name. So we're going to call this foam. Spell it correctly, F-O-A-M, foam. So this will be what we're going to target when we come to do the shading. We'll target this attribute. Then the coverage, we'll set this to around 0.1 for now. We might change that slightly. The end frame we're going to set to 700. So we're going to have 700 frame animation. We're going to go to the output and set the frame rate to 60 frames a second for now. And then we'll go back to the modifier. And let's see. We'll set the end frame to 700 as well here. So we're the start and end frame at 700. Pretty much most of these other settings I'm going to leave alone. We're going to probably tweak and play around with them a little bit, but for now we'll just leave them as they are. We'll go to File, Save, and then we need to zoom to sort of around here. So we want, really you want to get your camera, your viewport to around this sort of angle where we're looking down towards the water like here. Then we're going to press Ctrl-Alt-0. That moves the camera to that position, and we need to reposition that camera. So we'll click on the camera here. We'll click on the let's click on the move, what is this, object data here, and then on the Z we're going to bring it down so we can see it along the water. And then we will rotate this slightly. I think we'll rotate it upwards slightly and bring the camera down a bit more. Then we want to go to the camera settings here. We'll set it to around, let's see, I think we'll use like a 32 mil. So we'll set this to 32. This is a wider angle. and we need to adjust the camera a little bit more. But before we do that, we set the end clipping to around 250. That allows us to see further into the distance. So let's go back to the object data here, and we'll move the camera forward a bit more. So that's probably all we need to do, is just move it a little bit forward, so our camera is covering like the bottom here. The water is going to be covering the bottom here. We might need to adjust it a little bit more later. So let's see, on the x-axis we want to move it across this way a little bit. So you want to try and get it centered out, something like this. Let's go to File, Save As, and save it as version 2. So we have a second version of this file. We can zoom in a little bit and we can see what's going on here. I think this is going to be okay. We'll probably add more water in the background because I want to fly across this water a little bit. I think I want to try and do something a little bit different today. So let's go to File, Save. Let's go to the cube again. Let's double click on this cube and name it Ocean. Let's call it Ocean. Yep, Ocean. And then we'll go back to the modifier. And I think on the Y, we'll set it to 6. And then we'll go back to the camera. Go to the camera settings. And the end clipping, we're going to set it a bit further. So we'll set this to around 450, I think will be fine. And that will allow us to click on this, let's see, the camera here, go to here. And then just a little experiment, we're going to move across the water a little bit. We're going to move across the water. That's what we'll do. So let's go to File, Save. Let's go to the, what should we do next? Let's go to the world settings and click Use Nodes. And then we'll go to the shader. And then we'll click on the world settings here, or the world shading here. And then you can move your mouse up here and just press 0 so you see what the camera sees. Then we'll go to the world settings here. So I've clicked here and selected world because we're going to edit the node for the world. We'll zoom in a little bit here. We'll click on the background and delete it. And for now, what we'll do is set up an environmental texture, right? So let's see. Let's press Shift A and we insert a texture, environmental texture here. We'll set in a, let's see, where are we? Mapping. So we want to map this texture or move the texture. That's what we're using this for. And then we want to have a texture coordinate here. So the generated will connect that to the vector. This vector will connect to this vector here, and the color will connect to the surface. Let's go to File, Save, and then open up our web browser. And let's see. I made these notes, so we're going to download a few files. We'll leave this directory open. Let's just put it on the side for a minute. And we might as well download everything now. So the first thing we'll download is this image here. This is going to be our clouds in the background. You can pick a different image from Unsplash, but I'm going to use this one. I'll put a link to this in the YouTube description. So I'll click download here, and we'll create a new folder called images. And we'll drag this image into here. And we're going to use this part of the clouds for the background of the water. That's it. Then we'll go to HDRI Haven and we'll download this HDRI map. So we'll click 4K here. I'll put a link to this in the YouTube description as well. We'll drag that into here. And then finally we want a font, right? So I'm going to use this particular font. I'll put a link to this in the YouTube description. We'll click download. And that's not an image, it's a font, so we'll drag this into here. We'll right click, we'll extract it here into a folder. We'll delete the zip file and then we'll rename that folder font. And then we've got the font inside here. So we've got pretty much everything we need. So we can close this down. Let's go back to Blender here and we'll click on the open folder here. And we want to select image and then the HDRI image here, and we'll click open. And that's going to help us with our lighting for our water, right? So it doesn't look quite right yet, but we're going to fix that as we work through this project. So let's go ahead and now let's see what we want to do next. we really want to improve this water, right? So what we would do, let's see, let's go to the collection here and click on the ocean. So we'll click on this ocean and we'll go to the object data here, and we've got our, let's see, so what we want to do, just trying to think what's the best approach here, but I think what we would do, okay, let's do it this way. There's a few different ways to do this, but what we would do is let's work on the foam part of this water. So let's press Shift A, and we want to go to Input and Attribute, and we want to name it exactly what we named it in here. So if we go to Ocean and go to the modifier, we called it Foam right here, Foam. So we want to type in foam here, and then we want to add an emission shader. Let's go to shader and emission shader here, and we want to add a mix shader as well, right? So what we'll do is add a, let's find the mix shader, let's add a shader here. So we're going to click add shader here underneath shader, then we'll connect the color to the color here, and we'll connect the emission to this shader here. Then we'll connect this, let's just zoom out a little bit here, this BDSF color, we'll connect that to here, and then we'll connect this shader to the surface here. What this allows us to do is control this foam color. Can you see? So we've got a bit of control over the foam on the top of these peaks like this, and we'll set this to around 3.2. we don't want it to be too strong, so we're going to set it to around 3.2 for now. So we want something set up like this. So I think this will work well. Now we also, let's have a look here. So I'm going to drag this up a little bit. We need to make a bit more space. So let's see. Let's there's quite a few ways to make this ocean look realistic. So there's quite a few different ways to do this. I'm just trying to think of the most simplistic way of doing it. Let's not overcomplicate it, because you can really overcomplicate this, but I want to try and make it easy for you. So in color, we really want to, let's see, have a little think here. Okay, we want to add a color ramp here. Let's put a color ramp here, and then we will connect that. We need to add a, let's see, we want to add an input layer weight here, and we connect the Frenzel to the factor here like this. Then we need to really add a mix shader here, right? So what we'll do is press Shift A, and we're going to add a mix shader. And what we'll do here is connect the, let's see, I'm going to try and get this right. So yeah, we'll connect this shader here. And then we'll connect the color. Yeah, we'll connect the color to the factor here. And then we connect this shader to the surface. Now in theory, we should be able to balance this out. Let's try and balance it out, this frenzel. So what we'll do is we'll set it to B-spline, yeah? Here, let me zoom in a little bit so it's a bit easier for you to see this. No, I'm just trying to remember how I did this last time. Let me undo that. So what we want to do is click the plus sign here to add another little slider here, and we're going to slide this across here. Let's see, let's try and get this right. We want to set it to something like around here, around 0. Like around 0.82, 0.782 here, this handle. So we want it to be something like this. Again, we're going to go and probably change a lot of this stuff. This looks quite complicated, but all we're doing is controlling like the light, how the light is going to be hitting this, and also how this foam is going to look as well. So it looks a little bit complicated, but this will give us more realism in our water effects, basically. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do here. So I think this is pretty good. This is set up quite close to what I want. The one thing we will do is in the let's see, in this base color, we really want to set this to like a sort of ocean blue, right? Water's blue, so we want to make a sort of blue color. You can have it quite light blue. Don't go to like crazy color. I mean, you can have green water if you really want it, but I'm going to set mine to like quite a pale blue. Nothing too strong. You can have it quite strong, but that looks like sort of swimming pool water, right? We want it to be ocean water. Something quite pale blue, something like this around here. I'll leave you to experiment. You can play around with those settings, the color settings in here, and experiment and see how this like affects the lighting. It's really down for you to adjust these settings to what you want. You can see like you get some nice sort of shadowing on here and stuff like that. But I'm going to leave them around here, around these sort of settings. So you can pause the video. Let me stretch this up a little bit. I'll zoom in a little bit. You can pause it and just check out all the settings here, how they've been set up, and go and experiment with them and see what sort of effect you get. But this is pretty much how I'm going to set up the water scene, the water material like this. There's a few different ways to do this, but I think this is probably the easiest way. Then what we'll do is go back to the layout, and we'll click on the render here. We can see our ocean, right? So really we want to first of all put this picture of this sky in the background, right? So let's go and press Shift A, and then we want to insert a, let's see, where are we? Image as planes, and then we'll go to the image folder and we'll click on this image we downloaded from Unsplash, and we'll click import, and you'll see that right over here it's going to be tiny. So let's use the move tool and we move it over towards the center of the camera, and then we'll press S to scale and we'll scale it all the way up. So scale it up quite big because we're going to have to move this anyway. So let's click on the camera for a second. Let's go to the camera settings, and then on the Y let's set it to 0, and then on the Z axis let's set that to 0 on the rotation, so the image will be nice and straight now. Then we can click on this picture. Let's just call it sky background, and then we'll click on the object data here, and then on the Y we want to move it right the way back. So we're going to keep moving this back until it gets to the back of the this ocean, right? All the way down here somewhere. Let's zoom in a little bit. We can see, can you see it's cutting into the ocean still? So we want to move this back more. To about here. If you move it, you'll start to see the ocean being cut away. We want to get it so it's sitting behind the ocean. There's a few different ways to do that, but this is just the easy way, right? So we want this to cover the full camera, so you can see the camera seeing this other HDR background. So let's press S to scale and scale it all the way up. So that sky is now covering this water, right? This background. So we don't, if we press Control S, in fact, so let's press Control S to save. Let's go to File, Save As, and save it as version 3 would be wise. Save it as version 3, then we can press F12. And now we're kind of getting the idea of what we've got. We've got this water and we've got this sky in the background. But I think we need to widen out this water a bit because it's coming in at an angle. We don't really want that. So let's go to the ocean. Let's go to the modifier and we'll repeat it on the X probably twice. We need to set it around 6 and then we'll use the move tool. Let's zoom out a little bit. We can grab it and drag it across to something like this. I think that would be better. Let's press 0. Let's press 0 and zoom in a little bit. So I think that's going to be better. Let's press F12 now. And then you won't get this like sharp edges around the side. It's going to look a bit iffy. So I think that might be okay. We'll have to see how it pans out, but I think that's going to be okay. But definitely this background, this image, I want to move it up a little bit. Because if you move it too high, you're going to see all this stuff in the background. We don't really want to see any of that, those mountains and stuff. So we're going to move it around here. So I quite like that, and we might make it. So I'm going to press S to scale and scale it out a little bit. I think around here is going to be pretty good. Now let's click on the ocean again, and on the timeline we're on the first frame. So we'll hit the record button, and we're going to, in fact, let's not hit the record button yet. Let's move our mouse to this sort of position here on the timeline. Then use the mouse wheel and rotate downwards. And then just middle mouse click and drag it across. And just keep rotating it downwards until you can see the first frame and frame 700. So then hit the record button. Go to the timeline here and set that to, yeah, we can leave it at 1. And then press the letter I. That will insert a keyframe for the time. We'll drag all the way across to frame 700 and then press the letter I here again as well. And that will, and then we need to set this to something like 10 here on the time. Now if we untick the record button and move backwards, we'll see the water moving. And it looks a bit repetitive, but we, you know, when we bake it out on high resolution, if we move to something like frame 360 here, then go to the resolution and set it to 20 and hit the enter key. It's going to take time for Blender to update, so we'll just wait for it to update. Now you can see the water doesn't look so repetitive. You can see it's quite high res and you've got these nice effects on the water and all this good stuff, right? So let's just quickly go to the render settings and turn on bloom. So we turn that on and we want to bring down the radius. Let's bring down that radius for the minute. And this intensity, let's bring that down a little bit. Then we want to turn on screen space reflections. And in screen space reflections, we want to turn on refraction and then turn off half res trace. Let's go to File, Save. Then we're going to click on the ocean and go to the material here and then turn on screen space refractions here like this. So let's check this. This seems to be all okay. The trace position, let's set that to 1, and then I'm not sure we need, I don't think we need this screen subsurface scattering. I don't think we need that. So this is all on, this is okay. Let's go to File, Save As, and set it to version 4. And then what we'll do, for now we want to just put this back into low res for the minute. So we'll click on ocean, because if you try and move your timeline in this high resolution water, it's just going to move very, very slow. Blender's going to take forever to move from one frame to the next frame. You can see right now it's taking quite a long time just to render at that frame, because it's at such a high res. So really we have to wait for this to finish that move. Now it's moved and then it's rebaked it. So for now, to speed things up, we'll go back to the ocean, go back to the modifier and just set it to around 8. Now we can move the timeline quite quickly without having to worry about rendering at each frame each time. Now what we want to do is add some lighting, a bit of lighting, right? So let's press Shift A and we're going to insert a light sunlight. So let's just drag this across and we'll drag it up, and let's see, we'll move this back a little bit. You don't really have to move the sunlight, but I kind of like positioning it where it seems logical, right? So I'll move it up to here. So you can imagine the sunlight is coming down, hitting this water, right? But what we want to do is, let's press 0. We'll go to the object data here, and then on the X rotation, we want to rotate it. We want to rotate on a minus. So I'm going to set it to around, let's see, let's try and get this accurate. I want to set it to around minus, let's see, around minus 30, I think, something like this. Then we'll go to the color and we want to bring down its energy. It's too powerful, so we set the energy to around 0.7. let's see, yeah, then we want to change it to like a yellow color, something like this. Yeah, let's set it to around 0.7. We'll increase its radius slightly to around 0.3. Something around here. Yeah, something like this. I think that's a bit too bright. Let's go to File, Save. So we've got this sunlight hitting this water, but we can't really see it too well. So let's click back on the sun here. Let's go to the rotation. And we want to rotate it to about 70 degrees, something like this. And then we want to, let's see, what on the other one, we want to add another light source as well. So for the other light source, let's press, we can just duplicate this one actually. So let's press Shift and D. So we'll click on the sunlight, press, let's call this sun yellow because it was kind of a yellow color. Let's press Shift D to duplicate it. Now we've got 2 of them. This other one, we're going to call it sun white. So we want this white color, and we'll set that to, in fact, we can just set all of these to 1, right? The RGB, set them all to 1. That will make it white. And then what we'll do, we want to bring this right down, this power of it. These are going to be quite subtle effects, and the water's going to shimmer with these colors on them, right? That's what we're trying to get, that sort of effect in here. So I think that should be okay. Let's just go to the object data here. I think we'll leave this for now. We might animate these light sources afterwards. But let's see, sometimes after you put these lightings in and stuff like this, you won't really see it too well in the low res, right? So what I tend to do is click on the ocean, go back to the modifier, and then set it to around 20. Just wait for it to update, you have to be a bit patient. and then you can kind of see how that lighting might affect this water. Let's press F12 and render it. Let's just see what it looks like on the render. So it's looking pretty good. I quite like what I'm seeing. I think we need to play with the lighting colours a bit more. I don't think that yellow's coming through enough, right? Sun yellow. Let's just see what we might do. Let's go to the render settings. Let's increase this radius a little bit, and we'll intensify this a bit more. So let's set this to about 1 point, I don't know, let's see, 1.7, and we're going to change the color. So I'm going to make this more of a sort of yellow color, something like this. And then we're going to increase this threshold, right? We'll set it up to about, let's see, about around 1.8, something like this. So I think that will be okay. Let's turn the bloom off. It's not having much effect at the moment. Let's bring this right down. Okay, we'll play around with these settings a little bit later. So I think for now, we're going to leave it like this. I think this should be fine. We can experiment with that in a few moments and see if we can improve that somehow. Let's just go back into the let's have a look at this this shader. Let's go back into the object and click on this water here, right? Let's see if we can do something to improve this water a bit. I think most of these settings we're going to leave pretty much alone. Let's see. Okay, really, this was set to 3.2. Really, we need to turn off this high resolution. It's just going to take too long to re-render. So let's set this to around 12. So it should bake a lot quicker around 12, but we can still see some of the effects that are happening here, right? So let's see if we can get this looking a bit better. I think this is going to be okay. Here, this is really going to change the color of this foam, right? Like when this water peaks up, this is like the foam color or the strength of it. So I think around 3.2 to 4 should be okay. I'm going to set this to around 3.8. I'm going to increase it a little bit, give it a bit more dimension here. I think that will look a bit better. Maybe this color is a little bit too light. I think maybe something like this will be better. This sort of blue. It's down to you. You're gonna have to experiment with this and see what sort of color options you want there. So I think that's all I'm going to do with that material. Then here I want to reduce this down. Let's set this to around 0.25, and then I think this is set up pretty well. No, I prefer it this way. I think it looks better. Like this. So I'm going to leave this pretty much where it was before. Set this to 0.25 to blend. I think that's about good enough. What we might do though, let's just, in fact there's one thing I want to do here. So let's see. Let's set the transmission all the way up to 1 here. The roughness, I'm going to leave at 0. The specular I'll leave as default. So the roughness here I want to set to 0 here. Like this. So let's press F12 to render. Let's see one more render what it looks like now. Okay. So we might need to rotate our HDRI map. So let's save this. Let's go to the world settings. And we set up these map coordinates here, right? So that we can rotate this object. The actual HDRI lighting, we can rotate it. And maybe we can improve the actual effect on this water. For now I'm going to leave them as default zeros. And what I might, let's try and set this to mirrorball. I think that might improve it a little bit. It's quite dark at the background in the back here. You can see, so that might be to do with our lighting. I need to check that. Let's go into the layout view. So that must be coming from this image here. Let's press 0. Let's click on this background. And let's see. Okay. So with the background, you can see, because the water is see-through, it's showing this content in the back of the scene. We don't really want that. So what we'll do is move it down, so we can't see those mountains anymore. So move it down, and then we're going to press S to scale. We're going to scale it up. Let's say we might even have to, I don't know, let's press F12. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, I don't want this dark in the background. It might actually look good, but it's not what I wanted, so I'm gonna have to scale this. We're gonna scale this up more. So let's click on the this background here. Let's press S to scale, and we're gonna scale it up, and we'll scale it to something like this. Let's drag this down more. To somewhere around here. Let's press F12. See what that looks like now. I think that would be better. Let's move it up a little bit. Let's scale it down a little bit. Let's render that, see what that looks like. I might leave some of these dark peaks, like the dark water in here. I think it might give a bit of dimension to it. I think that looks better actually. So we'll leave it like that. You can experiment with that background, just resize it, reposition it, see where you like it to be. I think around here, around this sort of size, it's going to be good. Really, I want a few of these little sort of clouds here. Let's go to File, Save As, and we'll save it as version 5. Okay, we're almost done with this water now. So really what we want to do is add this text in. So let's go to File, Save. Let's go to the, let's add this text first, right? So let's press Shift A, and we'll insert a text object. So that text is right over here, it's pretty small as well. So let's drag it across and we can rotate and see it down here. So let's press tab and I'm going to type in, it's pretty hard to see there, isn't it? So let's just drag it up above the water so we can see it clearly. And I'm going to press tab on here to edit it. So make sure, let's press tab again. Make sure that you're clicking on the text here, then press tab, then delete this. You can type in anything you like. I'm going to type in what I typed in before, so ocean breeze, right? You can type anything, type your company name, type your own name, whatever you feel like you can type that in. And then really we want to change this font, and we've already downloaded the font, so we click here. Let's see where our text is here. We'll click on the text object, let's go to the font, let's select a font, and we'll select this one here. So we've got this nice sort of style font. We'll probably, let's see, we might want to change let's see if we increase the, well, the size we'll sort out afterwards. I think we'll keep the line space like this because I want the text to be joined together like this. I think it looks better. So we want to set the bevel, right? So let's go to the geometry and we'll set the extrusion to 0.2. So I think that's wrong. Let's set it to, let's have a look here. It's looking pretty thick, right? So let's bring that down. Let's set it to 0.1 and we might change that in a moment. Then the bevel depth and the resolution we'll set to 0.02 and 0.2. So with this text here, let's go to object, set origin, geometry to origin. Then we can move this and the origin will be in the center point. Let's press the letter R to rotate, then X to lock it on the X axis and press 90, that will rotate it so it's facing the camera. We'll press 0 on our keyboard. Now we can see what the camera sees. And let's drag it up, right? And it's absolutely tiny. So let's go to the size and increase the size. So we can see this is the camera, this box, and we want to get the size much bigger than that, right? So we want it to be, so it's going to max out at size 10 here. We actually want it to be bigger than that. So let's go to object, set origin, geometry to origin. We'll move it back to the middle again, and then we'll see the thickness. Let's just check this thickness is okay. So it's really thin now, right? So we want to increase that. So let's go to the extrusion and we set it to like probably, let's set it to 1 for now. Let's see what that looks like. Let's press 0. I think that's going to be pretty good for thickness, right? We want to be able to see some dimension in this text. So let's just go to object, set origin, geometry origin, then go to object and we're going to convert it to a mesh object. Now we can scale it more. So let's press S to scale and we'll scale it out more. And really it's worth zooming out a little bit in the viewport so you can see roughly how big that text is going to be. And we want it to be probably a little bit bigger than that. Scale it out to something like, so I'm pressing S on the keyboard and just moving my mouse to scale it, right? So I think something around this size will be good. Yeah, I think that's going to be about right. Then we'll go to the material. We'll click new material. Let's see, what type of material do we want to use? Let's set this text to a glass shader, and we'll turn the roughness right down, and we'll turn on screen space refractions as well, like this. Then it should take shadows and all this good stuff off the clouds and the water and stuff, right? So let's see, let's move this up a little bit. So as we're moving it down, we're going to see this this content from the background, so we don't really want to see that. So we're going to have to drag this down. So drag this image down, the background image, and then we can see what it looks like now. Let's go to File, Save. Let's go back to the render, and let's try and increase the bloom a little bit here. We want some nice light shining off of this text. Then I want to go to the yellow sun, and I might increase that energy a little bit, right? So it looks quite powerful now. This sunlight hitting this text and hitting the ocean. And then the white one, I think we're going to leave that pretty low. We don't want that to be too high. We want it to be something like this. I think this is going to be good. Let's press number 3 on our keyboard. Number 3 takes us into the right orthographic. And let's click on the, let's just try and find out. Our sky background is right here. Yeah? This is our text. So let's take the text object and move it right all the way down to the background around here somewhere. Let's press 0 on our keyboard. Now we can see the ocean text is right in the background. We just want to do a little experiment. So I'm going to click on the camera. I'm going to click on this object data. You don't need to do this, but I just want to see what it looks like if we were to go across the water and move towards that text. Just want to see how it looks. So on the y-axis, I'll move the camera as if it's moving across this ocean, and let's get to around here somewhere, something like here. Let's press F12 and see what it looks like. So I think that might be okay, but this this background looks quite blurry at this distance, so let's zoom out a little bit. Let's click on the sky background and scale it. Okay, we don't really want to do that. So I don't think we'll move the text this far back. I think that's a bit too far back. Let's see. And I want the camera really a bit lower. Let's click on the camera. I want to rotate it upwards a bit more and bring it down. I want it to be like looking across the water, right? I want to see the waves peaking. More like this. I think it will look better. And to save us a bit of time, we'll press number 7. We'll go to the top view and we'll bring that camera back here. So it's back to its original position. Let's take the text object and we'll move that one back as well to around here. Let's press 0. Let's see here. I think we need to move our camera back more. Just click on the camera. There's a camera here. Let's move it back more to around here. Then this background, we need to move it up. So text. So let's click on the sky. Let's move that up so it covers the whole camera. Then this text, let's move that forward again. So around here. I think we need to rotate this camera a bit too low, so let's rotate it down a bit and bring it up a little bit. I think it looks better like this. Because if it's too low, you can't really see much into the distance. If it's too flat, I think it'll look better like this. Let's go to the ocean. Let's go to File, Save As. And I know we're doing a lot of tweaking and stuff like that on this project, but sometimes that's what you got to do. You got to experiment with things to see what looks right, what doesn't look right, and you got to change things. That's just the way it is. So what we'll do, I'm going to move to around frame 380, around here, and what I'll do is go to the ocean, go to the modifier and set the resolution to 20. Just want to see what it looks like when it's high resolution. We have to be a bit patient so Blender can work out all the calculations. Then we'll press F12. So let's see what it looks like. We'll let this render out. So I'm thinking that looks pretty good. You can imagine that's just one frame of this animation. So once we start animating it, then I think it's going to look pretty good once the water's all animated properly. So I don't think I'm going to do a camera move. I think I'm just going to leave this as it is. Let me just see the camera settings. If we go to the camera settings, we're pretty much looking straight to the background. Really, we didn't need it to be that far, I don't think. We could probably save some bake time, but I think it'll be okay. It's alright seeing it into the distance like that, and maybe we'll do a slight different sort of animation with the camera. I'm wondering what the camera would look like from the top view, right? So maybe let's just see what the camera looks like if it's looking down at the water quickly, and then we might do a little animation sequence of it flying down from the top. So let's see. We need to move it on the Z-axis, right? So let's move it up to about here somewhere, and then we're going to rotate it looking down at the water, something like this. Let's render out that frame, see what it looks like. Okay, I think I know what I'm going to do. So with this text, I'm going to click on it. Let's click on the text and let's drag it so that it's underneath the water, so it's not visible. We'll start on this frame here. We'll move back to frame 1. Really, we need to set this to, let's just let this do its thing. We need to go to the ocean. Blender's trying to move the frame, so let's click on ocean. Let's click on the modifier. Let's set the resolution to around 7. So it's quite low resolution at the moment, so we can move our timeline quite easily without it like hanging and stuff, right? So we'll move to frame 1. We'll go to File, Save As, and save it as version 7. Then we want to, let's see, we want to let's get our timings right. So we're going to run this at 60 frames a second. 700 divided by 60 gives us a total of 11.6 seconds, right? So every 60 frames is going to be a second. So let's say after 2 seconds, after frame 120, let's make it 160. So just after 2 seconds, 1, 2, that should be fine. We'll go to the record button, hit that record button, and we'll click on the camera. And what we'll do is go to the object data here. In fact, we'll go to the first frame. Let's just set it to frame 1, and we'll press the letter I on the location rotation here, and we'll set the letter I here as well. So we insert a keyframe for these two. here you can see that. We'll move to frame 160. Then we simply move it on the z-axis down, and we want to rotate it on the y-axis to around 80 degrees, right? Around 80, I think it was before. Something like around here. Let's move it down a bit more. So basically I want the camera to float down from this top angle, right? Like this. And then the water will keep doing its thing. So 160 plus another second would take us to 220, right? That's 40. Yep, 220. That would be a second. So on this frame, I'm going to click on the text, and then I'm going to insert a keyframe for the location here. So I'll press the letter I, and then really I want this text to be further back. So on the, we can position it, actually we can, let's see, yeah, we'll position it here. We can do this now. So let's move it up to where we would want it to be. And let's rotate that camera a little bit more. In fact, we'll rotate it afterwards. I think this text still looks a bit too small for some reason, so let's untick this record button for the minute. Let's go to the text here, and let's press S to scale it. Let's scale it up. It's too small. Scale it up to around this size. I untick the record button because I want to animate that scale, right? So we hit the record button again, and we want to move that text back to around here. Let's move it up a little bit. We want it above the water, but some of it touching the water, something like this. So that's where we want the water to end. That's what we want it to end like. So we, from frame 220 to frame, let's see, 300, I would say. That's 80. So let's do 220. Let's set it to 280. 1 second. Probably a little bit further. Let's go to frame 300. So between 220 and 300, we'll move back here and press the letter I. So that's basically the text isn't moving. So let's move back to frame 220. And then we just drag it down underneath the water. So if we see this, it's going to slide in like this. It's going to do a bit of water effect. Then this text is going to float up to here. And then we want to either move the camera to the text or move the text to the camera. And I think it would be better to move the text to the camera. So we'll go to like frame 460. That's going to be quite slow, right? Even further than that. Let's go to about frame 520. Probably about frame, let's see, what do we want to do at the end? So let's do about frame 600. So between 300 and 600, we just want to move it on the y-axis, the text, and we want to bring that in closer to the camera, to around here. Then on that particular frame, on the camera, we'll press the letter I here to insert a keyframe, and press the letter I here to insert a keyframe for the location and rotation between these points, right? And then we want to rotate and get this text in a good sort of angle. So let's rotate it on the y-axis. Let's rotate it upwards, and we'll bring it down on the z-axis to around here. I think it's going to be good. So let's just see what that looks like now. think that's going to be pretty good. Let's just render out that frame. So we press F12 to see what that frame looks like. And really what we want to check is that at some point yeah, I think that's going to be okay. My only thing I'm questioning is whether you can actually read what it says there before it's sort of floating across. I think the best way to test that is to move to like frame, you could actually move to frame 600, right? Untick the record button, go to file, save. You can't really see that text too well, you can't read it properly. So the way to know if you're ever going to be able to read it is to go to the ocean, go to the modifier and set the resolution temporarily to 20. And then we'll let it see what the ocean looks like when it's baked at 20, or when it's set to 20 resolution. You can see, you can clearly read it now, it's pretty good. Should be able to read it okay. So let's set that back to 7. Let's go to file, save. And maybe one thing we'll do, let's click on the text object. Where's this text object? Let's move it to this frame. And I think on frame 300, we'll actually bring it up a little bit more, just so that it sits above the water here. Let's go back to frame 300. Oops. Just type in 300 here. So we're on frame 300. Hit the record button. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to hit the record button and bring it up a little bit more. Maybe just this little tail I have in the water. And then as it moves across here, when it gets to frame 600, I'm going to drop it back into the water here, like around here. So some of the text is in the water. So between there and from here, it's going to raise above the water, and as it's coming towards the camera, it's going to drop into the water. I might even bring it down a bit more, something like this. I think will be good. I don't think there's much else for us to do, but I want to try and make some maybe improvements to that original animation. So what I might do, you don't have to do this, but I think we'll add some particles in there, right? Particles are always good fun. Can't go wrong with particles. So what we will do, I think I'm gonna, let's see, let me just undo that so I can show you what I'm doing. So what I might do is, I've already got a few frames here. I've got about 100 frames, which is what, just under a second. So I want a bit more time. So this 600, I might move it back to around 500, or maybe about 540. So I'm going to click on the keyframe, left mouse click, and drag it to around frame 540. All that means is it's going to just play that sequence a little bit quicker. So it's going to move to the camera a little bit quicker. And while it's moving to the camera, we've got a couple of options. Either we can wait till it gets to here, then do our particles, or while it's moving we could do the particles. And I think it would be better to wait till it gets to here, then we just show a few particles coming off of this sort of text. So to do that, what we'll do, we've got a couple of options, but I think I might generate the particles under the water and have them float out of the water. I think that will look better. So let's press, let's go into wireframe. Let's go file, save as, and we may or may not render this particle thing. So let's save it as version 8 with the particles. And then we'll press number 7. That takes us into the top view. We'll press Shift A and insert a mesh plane. We can see the plane here. We'll press S to scale it up a little bit so we can see it a bit better. Let's zoom in. And then we've got the move tool already selected. We'll click on the edge around here so we can drag it freely. And we'll drag it to the center of this text. And then we'll press S to scale and then press X to scale it on the X axis. We're going to make it slightly bigger than the text, right? So let's just drag it across a little bit here. So we want like almost an even space around it. We'll move it to the side a bit here. Something like this. We'll press 0 on our keyboard. That takes us back into the camera view. Let's go back into the render view for the minute. And we would want, in fact, so let's leave it in wireframe. We're going to drop this particles below the water. So we don't really want to see that emitter. That's going to be our particle emitter. Let's press Shift A to insert. Let's do some UV spheres, I think. Yeah, UV sphere. So let's zoom out a little bit. We can see that UV sphere is here. Let's drag it into the camera view so we can see it. So here's our UV sphere. Let's press S to scale and we'll scale it down to this sort of size, and then we're going to press Shift D to duplicate it. We're going to duplicate it once, and we're going to press Shift D again and duplicate it twice. So we've got 3 of them. So use Shift and D to duplicate, right? And we've got sphere 1, 2, and 3. So we can leave them as these names, because what we're going to do is right click on this collection up here and create a new collection. So we've got this, let's see, where is this new collection gone? Let's drag this down a little bit. So we've got this new collection here, and we're going to call this particles. And we're going to click on this sphere and drag it into the particle collection here. Click on this one and drag it in, and click on this one and drag it in. Let's save this. This plane needs to be called particle emitter. So this will be the particle emitter, and these are going to be the particles. Really, we should name these, right? So let's call it particle 1, particle 2. Let's call that one, can be called particle 3. Let's call it particle 2, and then particle 3. Particle 3. So we've got 1, 2, 3 particles. Let's click on the first one, go to the material, click new, and then we want to set it to an emission shader, and we'll increase the brightness of it. Let's set that to around, I think about 7, should be good. And we're going to change its color to like a light blue sort of color, right? Not too light, something like this. Let's see, let's turn off the overlays. You can actually see what color it's going to be, right? It's a bit hard to see with the overlays and the orange thing covering it. So we don't want it to be too bright, something like this. Let's set the emission to around 10 for now. Then we'll click on the second particle. That will be the middle one. Then we'll go to the material, create a new material, set it to an emission shader, set the strength to 10, and we might leave that one as white. And then a third one, which is this one here, we'll go to the material, create a new material, let's set it to an emission shader, we'll set it to 10, and maybe we'll set this one to a slightly different blue color. Well, I don't really want to go crazy with some other crazy colors, but maybe we'll leave it as yellow, right? Yellow. So we've got blue, white, and yellow, 3 different types of particle colors. We will then click on the particle emitter down here. We'll go to the particle settings here, and we'll click new, and we'll leave it at around 150 particles. We don't want too many. We might change that. We want to set the particles to start. Let's see. So around, let's click on the text, right? If we click on the text, we'll know that it finishes on frame 540. So the last frame for the text animation movement is on frame 540 here. So when we click on the particle emitter, we can set the start frame to 540. And in fact, the end frame, we need to set it to around 690, right? 600, in fact, it'll be less than that. Let's set it to 640 for now. And then set the start to 540. And they're only going to last 50 frames. So that might be too short. So we'll leave it at this, and we'll work that out afterwards. Let's go to save. Then the velocity will set to 0, and the, let's see, in the physics, the Brownian will set it to 5. Then in the render, we're going to set it to a collection, and then in this collection we'll click here and select particles, and we want to pick random here, pick random. So we're going to randomly pick these colors. Then the scale, we need to sort that out, so we won't know that until we run this, right? So let's press in the field weight, and let's set the gravity to 0 for now, and let's press Shift A, and we'll insert a force field wind. So the wind object is right over here. The force field, where is it? It's probably, actually we need to turn on our overlays, yeah? Turn on overlays here, and you can see it's over here. So let's drag that towards the camera so we can see it. It doesn't really matter where it's positioned. Right now it's pointing upwards, and that's where we want it. We want the particles to flow upwards, so that's fine. This really doesn't matter where it's positioned too much. Then we press Shift A, and we're going to insert a turbulence. So let's drag that as well across here. And again, it doesn't really matter too much where it's positioned. So this will be turbulence and this will be wind. So we've got these two filters. The first one's wind, I assume. So let's click on the field here and click on the physics here. This field, we need to drag it into the top collection. It's not a part of the particles. This one here, we need to drag it into the top collection as well. So particles will only ever contain these three elements, right? So this field here is called field wind, and the one below it is going to be called field TUR for turbulence. The field wind, I think we're going to leave that at 1. We'll see. And then the strength here, let's put this to around 2. Turbulence. So let's see what happens now. We don't really see much happening. So let's go into solid view, and in the shading let's see. Don't know, where is this? Here it is, right? So here we can see the particles are being emitted. It's really hard to see. We can see particles, but they're tiny. So what we'll do, we can see they're moving, right? But they're so small. So what we'll do is go back to the particle emitter, go back to the particle settings here, and in the scale, let's scale them up. Let's make them a bit bigger, and let's set the random scale all the way up. We'll set this to, I think about 0.5 should be good, around this size. And let's see. So they're going to float up, but their lifetime is so short, they never reach the surface. So let's see, the lifetime. We will set this to, let's set it to around 150. Let's just see if any of these ever reach the top. They might just about be visible. Let's go into the render view. Let's press 0. Let's turn off the overlays. And then we can see these little particles here now, right? But they're too small and they're not moving fast enough, because we'll never get to see them, basically. So what we will do, let's go to the wind, the field wind. Let's go here. Let's set the strength to around 2. Definitely we want more of them, right? So let's go to the particle emitter here. Let's go to the particle settings, and let's set the number to around 300. let's try and render it out here. Let's actually go to really what I want to check. We should really move this particle emitter up a little bit. So let's click here. Let's drag it up a bit so it's a bit closer to the surface. And what we'll do is, to make sure, we'll go to the particle emitter. We'll go to the particle settings, and inside of the render, let's turn off show emitter, so it never gets rendered. Basically, we can bring it a lot closer to the text now, so we can move it closer to the text, and it will never get rendered. So it should be fine at that position. Then I think we'll see some nice particles appearing now. And what we'll do is we'll increase them. Let's see. I might add some extra frames to the end of this as well. It's going to be quite a long render, but you know what? So what? Let's set it to 1,000 frames. So I'm going to increase it to 1,000 frames. That means we need to do a few things here, right? So we need to click on the ocean, go to the modifier, and set the end to 1,000 as well. And we need to zoom out a little bit here, so we can see all the 1,000 frames. And this end keyframe is the end time here. So we need to click on this keyframe and drag it all the way down to here. Let's just shut that down. And what we'll do is go back to the particle emitter. Let's go back to the particle settings, and now we can give it more. Let's see, the lifetime can last a lot longer, and we can probably get away with generating them for longer as well. So we'll increase the end time to around 750, should be good, 750, and we can increase the lifetime as well to around 235. I know that I can increase these settings because this red line here represents how long those particles are going to be displayed for, and that's the end point here, just a few frames before the end. So now when we get to here, we're going to get to see more particles float up like this, and we might actually create a few more as well. Let's see what it looks like. Really what I want to do, let's turn on the overlays. First thing I'll do is zoom out. We'll click on this particle here. We'll hold down the shift key and click on the other ones as well. And let's just drag these out of the camera view because they'll never get rendered, these three here. Let's zoom back in actually to around here. And we will turn off all the overlays. Let's go to the ocean. Let's set the modifier resolution to 20. Just want to bake this one frame with the particles and see what it looks like. Let's press F12 and see. So I think to get a real judgment of that, really what we need to do is go to the particle emitter, go to the particle settings here, and we need to bake it. So click Bake All Dynamics. I think it's actually baking the water as well. So let's press escape. I'm going to hit the escape key on my keyboard. That should stop the baking, because when we clicked Bake All Dynamics, I think it was baking the so I'm going to click Free Bake. Here, let me just try and free that bake. Okay, the bake has been freed, and I don't want to bake all dynamics. Or really what I might have to do, in fact what we do is click on ocean, go back to the modifier, let's set it to 7 again, so it's low res, but we can bake the particles to see how they're going to work. So we can go back to the particle emitter, and then click let's just move to the beginning of those particles. I just want to see how they're animating before I go and bake this ocean. This ocean thing is going to take long to bake, right? So let's click Bake All Dynamics. This should bake pretty quick, so because there's not that many particles in there. Let's just go to File, Save. Okay, we'll click Free Bake, then click Bake All Dynamics. Now you can see it's baking the particles a lot quicker. But I think when you bake all dynamics, I think it's actually baking the water effect as well at the same time. That's why it's taking quite long to bake this. Normally those particles will bake very quick. I just want to see how they're flowing and how high they're reaching, because if you don't bake it, sometimes you don't really get the correct particle trajectory. It just looks wrong. So let's scrub across here, and we can see how high they get. So they don't get that high, right? They only get to about here, which is about right. Let's press F12 and see. That's what we see in the render. We can see they get around this sort of distance from the top, which is okay. That's roughly where I want them to be. So that's good. That's all I really wanted to check. So we go back to this frame 540. Frame 540 here. We'll hit the record button, and what we'll do is free this bake here on the particles. We'll move down and we'll go to the particle, where is it? Particle size, particle scale. We'll press I on here, and then we'll move to around frame 900. Should be good. Let's go for one more frame, 900 here. We'll press the letter I again. So between here and here, all the particles will be the original size. Then when it gets to frame 986, around 986, I'm going to hit the letter I and then turn this all the way down to 0. So what will happen is between those distances, at the beginning, the particles will be normal size. They'll float up, and then they're going to get to a point here where they're going to fade away. That's really what I want. I think we need more particles. So let's set them to around, let's try around 600. And let's turn off the recorder. Let's play and see if we can see. Probably easier using the mouse here. I think that's going to be good enough. Yeah, I think that's good. So let's go to File, Save. Now what we want to do is we just want to move our mouse cursor up to here where you can see my mouse cursor. We're going to left click and drag across like this to open up two windows side by side. We'll click on the ocean, this ocean. Let's turn on the overlays. I think we turned them off, right? Let's turn on the overlays here for now. On this side here, we're going to click here and go to the let's see, the graph editor. We're going to zoom out a little bit, and we're going to click on this point here, and then we're going to shift click on this point here. So we're selecting both these points from top here to here. We're going to press the letter T, and that brings up this control panel. We're going to select linear, and that draws a straight line. So we can now right click here and then click join, and then click the arrow on this side. So all we've done now, basically all we did there was to make sure that the water is moving at a constant rate. So it's not slowing down at the beginning and then speeding up or slowing down. The water now will move at a constant rate all the way through this animation. So the text might slide in slowly and fade and do all that good stuff in the particles, but the actual water itself will always be moving at a constant rate. So I think this is going to be pretty good. We need to do a few more things here before we're done. So what we'll do is go to File, Save. We'll go to the ocean. We'll click on the... We could put a camera fade at the beginning. I'm not quite sure we need that because of the angle that we're looking at. I think it would look better if there is no camera fade. We could have put one at the end. I've done that in other tutorials, so if you check my other tutorials you can see how to do a camera sort of fade. What we might try and do though is let's think, no, I think we'll leave it there because this tutorial is getting on to an hour and a half almost, so let's not bother. What we'll do now is we need to go to the ocean, go to the modifier, set it to 20, the resolution. So set it to 20. Let's go to File, Save. We've already baked the particles. Let's just check. Let's click Bake here, yeah? So when we click Bake here, that should bake the particles only. So that's baking these particles. That might take some time. It shouldn't in theory, but I think it's baking the particles and the water at the same time. In fact, we'll cancel that, so I'm going to hit the escape key. Because if it's going to do that, we might as well bake all the dynamics. So let's free this bake, click free bake. It's going to move back to frame 1. So wait for it to free this bake. Let's go to File, Save one more time. And I'm going to click Bake All Dynamics. So it should start baking from this first frame, where it's actually starting from here, which is a bit strange. Because I wanted to bake all of the water as well, so I think we have to bake that separately afterwards. So I'm going to let this, in fact what I'll do, let's cancel this, I don't think that's right. So I'm going to hit the escape key to cancel. And it's going to take us back to the first frame. I'm going to free this bake for now. So just click free bake. I'm going to make a note. So first we'll bake the water, and then second we'll bake the particles afterwards. So let's go to the ocean. Let's go to the modifier here, and we're going to click Bake Ocean here. And it's set out frame 1 to 1000. So let's click Bake Ocean. And that's baking now. That's baking pretty fast. So I'm going to pause the video, let that finish, and then we'll continue and bake the particles afterwards. Okay, so it didn't take long for Blender to bake the ocean. What you'll notice though is now when you're clicking with your mouse, so if you were to right click on frame 300, it's going to take quite a bit of time to move to that frame because it's quite a high resolution animation inside the Blender here, right, to animate all of this. So it's taking quite a lot of time to move through these frames. That's the only disadvantage really. So we'll wait for it to move to this frame just to see what it looks like on this particular frame. Okay, we can see it on this frame here. One problem we've got here is these light sources, right? They're showing in that first frame. So now that it's been baked, you can actually reduce the resolution. You can set it back to something like 7, and that allows you to move things a little bit more smoother because it's been baked, the ocean's been baked, all the dynamics, and we can up the resolution afterwards when we go to animate this sequence. But we can clearly see, like, in fact, no, I think those balls are okay actually. They're not in the camera view, but we might, let's see, like this is the camera, right, and you can see them here. So let's move them a little bit anyway. So we'll click on all three of them, select them using the shift key. Let's zoom out a little bit. Let's drag them right out the way so they'll never be in our camera view. So if we've got the camera here, we can see that it's going to do this effect across here, right? And everything's telling me that we need to bake these particles as well. So I'm going to click on the particles, go to the particle settings and click bake here as well. Now it's baking it much quicker because it's not having to bake the water and the particles all at the same time. So I think that was the reason. So it's worth baking the ocean first and then coming back and baking the particles afterwards. See, it's doing it much quicker now. So we shouldn't have to wait too long for this to bake. Okay, that's baked as well. I think that's going to be fine. So what we need to do now is move to frame 1. In fact, yeah, we need to move to frame 1, go to the ocean, go to the modifier and set it back to 20. And we need to go through a few of these frames. This bit's a little bit painful, but what we need to do is move through some of these frames to make sure that the camera, no water is like rendering outside of the camera frame incorrectly. So let's move to around frame 250 for now, because that's where the camera is moving towards the water. So it should be fine up until around frame 250. I did, in my previous example, when I made that first example, luckily I checked a few random frames and I could see that the water was rendering outside of the camera. It was a bit funny, it's a bit hard to explain, but we'll flick through some of these frames. So we'll go to frame 248. Let's go to frame 350. So I'm right clicking with my mouse here on frame 250. And it takes time to move between the frames and you have to do this at high resolution. Otherwise you're not going to see any sort of problems. You won't notice them. So we'll just wait for it to move through these frames. This looks all okay. Let's move to like frame 560 or whatever it is here. I think we're going to be okay. If I zoom out a little bit, what you want to avoid, if your camera is quite low, sometimes you end up rendering out like this part down here, you see? Where the water is going outside of the camera, sort of like this. Imagine if that was there like that and you could see this stuff underneath, it wouldn't look very good. So let's zoom back in. This frame looks fine. Let's go to frame 700. In this video, I don't think we're going to have that problem. But in my last example that I did, I could see that problem when I was about to render the frames. Luckily, I checked a few of them and I could see that issue, but we shouldn't really have this problem here. Can you see how it's getting pretty close now? Here, it's getting close to the camera frame, and that might end up going outside the camera frame or going into the camera frame, and we really don't want that. It's not going to look good. We have to render this all again afterwards to make it look right. So we'll just click through these frames, a few random ones, just to make sure that you can see it's getting pretty close there. Let's go to like a few frames forward. Yeah, I think that's about as close as it was going to get. Let's go back a few frames to here. I'm going to right click around here, just before that frame 800. That's where it got very close. And in fact, what I might do is move this camera up a little bit towards these end frames just to be safe. let's click on the camera. Let's click on this record button. What we'll do is go to the ocean and we'll set it to 7 for now. You can see 7 looks much different. We'll go to the camera, and on frame, where are we? All the way up to about frame 600, we ain't gonna have no problems. So frame 600, what I'm gonna do is move the camera up slightly. So that will be on the Z-axis. We'll move it up to about here. It's not gonna make much difference for us, but it will make sure that we don't have that problem. So then even on frame 1000, just to move this up slightly more. So it'll only be a small movement, but I think we'll be safe now. There's no way, there should be no way that that's going to get rendered into that frame. So let's hit the record button. We'll go to like frame 900, and we'll go back to the ocean and set it to 20 again. And we're good here, right? Looks like we're going to be okay. Let's go to frame 590, 950 should I say. That one looks okay as well. And finally we'll go to frame 1000. This may seem boring, right? You can fast forward all of this if you want in the YouTube channel, but you would hate to have to render all of this out because it takes quite a long time to render, and then once you've done all the rendering you find out there's this, you know, this big bit of cutout water right down here somewhere in your animation. It ain't going to look very good. So I'm going to go back to frame 800 just to check this frame, and then that's it. I think I'm done with checking. Hopefully your computer's a lot faster than mine and you can whiz through these frames at 20 resolution, but mine's a bit on the slower side. We're okay, we're good. So we're going to go back to the first frame. Then we're going to go to the output settings. Everything here is set up. I'm going to run it at 60 frames a second. I'm going to set it to AVI JPEG, leave it at 90% compression, RGB, click on this folder, go to the desktop, click on this project folder here, and we'll click accept, and then we'll just go to press, in fact always save, file save, then press Control and F12. And now Blender is going to render out every single frame of that 700, I think, no, it's 1000, right? So that's going to take a considerable amount of time to render all of those frames out. Okay, so Blender's finished rendering out all of the 1000 frames. So we can see the last frame here, we're on 1000. So we'll close down this render, we'll go to File, Save, and then we can close down Blender. So inside the folder we should have this new AVI file. We can open that, and let's just check out this animation sequence. We'll watch it a few times and then we'll try and work out how we could improve it. So I think it looks pretty good. I think it came out quite well. I like the water, the way the waves are moving. I think it looks pretty cool. So what would I do to improve this? Let's pause this and go back to the first frame. So I might have put like a camera blur at the beginning. I've done that in other tutorials, so you can check some of my other videos. You see the camera blur, but I quite like the camera looking down at the water, and then as we move in, it's going to slide down like this. And this coloration in the water, I don't actually mind that. I kind of think it looks okay. First I was a bit 50-50 about that, but I think it actually looks okay because it just breaks up the water a bit, so it's not all just one flat sort of colour. And you don't really get to see it so much, but I think it looks fine. The text popping up looks okay. The one thing I would have probably done is move this, as the text slides up, maybe it would have been a good idea to have this text move up a little bit higher, because if we move back a few frames we can see there's like a a shadow being casted on the water here, right, from the sunlight above. So it's hitting this object and casting this shadow. So if this text was a little bit higher, we would have probably seen that shadow a bit better. And this wave is quite high here, so you can't really see it too well. And maybe when it gets to this point, before the particles, or while those particles are being emitted, we might have moved the text up as well. Because if we would have moved it a little bit higher, I don't mind it here, but if we would have moved it higher, we would have seen the shadow on the water as well, and that might have looked pretty cool. So I think that would have been nice as well during this this particle emission part. Could have moved the text a little bit higher and then got some shadows here. But apart from that, I think it looks pretty good. I'm quite happy with it. So I hope your one turned out pretty well. And that's about it for this tutorial. I know this was a long one, but sometimes you got to explain things in detail so that it makes your life easier when you're creating these videos or these animation sequences. Okay, we'll close all this down, and I look forward to seeing you on the next DCP web tutorial.